Remember when Man United were pummeled 4-0 by MK Dons in August 2014, back when Dele Alli was rated 55 in FIFA? Let's take a look at Man United's starting 11 from that day. Only one man is still there, with the rest effectively brought out back and tossing the biggest dustbin Louis van Gaal could find: David De Gea. If ever there was a game that made David De Gea panic and start looking up one-way flights to Madrid, it was this one. I'm guessing this man didn't join Man United to get embarrassed by a side from League One, with a 17-year-old running the midfield and the stadium chanting the most nauseating football song of all time. It's 4 years later and things have not got much better for the club, but the Spaniard is still there, no doubt cursing the maker of the goddamn fax machine. Don't be surprised if he's already packing his bags for Paris. Marnik Vermigel. There's a good chance a lot of you will have never heard of Marnik Vermigel, and why would you? The man effectively failed his audition at the club. His 5-year stay at Old Trafford immediately cut short as he was flogged to Sheffield Wednesday the following year. The 26-year-old Belgian right back, who probably still wakes up in the dead of night thinking about the time Samir Carruthers ruined his life, is currently struggling to get in the team at Preston. How anybody thought he'd be good enough for Man United, I'll never know. Rhys James. Again, this was probably the moment Rhys James had been waiting for his entire life. It turned into more of an absolute nightmare, as Bedenkophobia of all people made him look like a lad who'd just been introduced to the concept of clearing the ball just 20 minutes before the game. James was then spat out on loan to Rotherham, with Van Gaal clearly viewing him as about as much use as a soggy bowl of cereal, before he was sold to Wigan the following year. The 25-year-old has recently linked up with Sunderland in League One. God love him. Johnny Evans. Why Van Gaal thought he no longer needed Johnny Evans when Tyler Blackett would soon be thrust onto the pitch, I'll never know. Another man whose long-standing stay at the club since 2004 was cut short by the ruthless Dutchman, spat out to West Brom the following year. Within a couple of years, Man City and Arsenal were battling it out to sign the man, with Van Gaal stuck at home with his P45 and nothing but regrets. Following West Brom's relegation, where the Northern Ireland international did not cover himself in glory, you know, stealing taxis and all that, he ended up at Leicester City instead. Michel Keen. Last year, Michel Keen was apparently linked with a £30 million return to Old Trafford. It's almost as if the club didn't think before they got rid. The former Republic of Ireland underage international, oh I still remember Michael, was soon spat out to Burnley on loan and then a permanent deal. 2 years later he was finalising a £30 million move to Everton, while Mourinho chucked the same amount at Victor Lindelof, who then spent the next 9 months playing like Titus Bramble on acid. Saidi Janko. You just knew someone called Saidi Janko was never going to be a hit at Old Trafford. Christ above, the man sounds like a type of lentil soup. Off he went to Bolton on loan before signing for Celtic. He barely played, moved to Saint Etienne in 2017, and then incredibly Porto took the chance on the Swiss winger with a touch of a donkey. Maybe they signed him on a bet, I don't know, but he was chucked out to Nottingham Forest on loan fairly swiftly. Anderson. Let's be honest, Anderson may well be a former Brazil international, Champions League winner and owner of 4 Premier League medals, but the fact he managed to last 7 years at the club when he probably shouldn't have made it past the first is quite remarkable. By the time this game rolled around, you would have assumed the club veteran would have been an overweight 34-year-old, winding down his career. No, this fellow is still only 26. Still, his final moments in a United shirt will always be remembered for his inability to throw in a meaningful tackle against a bunch of lads from League One, and he was shuffled off to Internacional in Brazil fairly quickly. Recently he's just signed for Adana Demirspor in Turkey, where he gets to play with absolutely nobody of any note or value. Wouldn't be surprised if that lad just gets paid in free kebabs these days. Nick Powell. He was nothing short of anonymous in his time at Old Trafford. Signed in 2012 for $6 million, the teenager made just 3 league appearances, and this game effectively reduced his chances of staying at Old Trafford to zilch. Off he went on a season-long loan to Leicester City. Again he played 3 times, then signed for Hull City on loan the following season. Again he played just 3 times. He's done better since moving to Wigan, firing home 25 goals in 76 games. Great record for the 24-year-old, although the majority of those were in League One. Shinji Kagawa. It's sad to see a lad of Shinji Kagawa's undoubted talent shoved into a list with these imposters, but it just goes to show how little Van Gaal rated the poor man. The Japanese international struggled in his 2 years at Old Trafford, and this was the final nail in the coffin. A few days later he was returned to Borussia Dortmund at a knockdown £6.5 million fee. It's not all bad though, he's probably going to win his 3rd league title with them. Javier Hernandez. This was an undignified, protracted breakup between club and player. Adored under Sir Alex Ferguson, he was then practically shoved into a cold dark cellar under the stadium as soon as Moyes and then Van Gaal came to town. Most of these players were punished for such a reckless display by getting demoted to lower league clubs. Chicharito was punished for a limp performance by getting a loan move to Real Madrid, leaving a club who had just finished 7th in the league for the Champions of Europe. Christ above, Nike the man's agent. He scored 9 times, including a last minute winner to knock Atletico Madrid out of the Champions League, before signing for Bayer Leverkusen in 2015. 39 goals and 2 seasons later, his stock was at an all-time high, signing for West Ham for $16 million in July 2017. Within a few months, Moyes had followed him to the club. Back he went to the bench and to no doubt cry into his pillow every night before bed. Danny Welbeck. What's Danny Welbeck doing these days? Being injured, of course. A 13-year spell at Old Trafford was ended days after this game in what is now known as the MK Dons Cull. Christ above, was almost as if George R.R. Martin had picked the fucking team. His punishment was a £16 million move to Arsenal. 7 months later he'd be wheeling away in celebration as his winning goal knocked his boyhood club out of the FA Cup, piling the pressure on the man who ended his dreams.